Welcome to Powered by Authenticity. Oh, you guys, first of all, we're live. But secondly, and most importantly, we are joined tonight by an amazing guest who is making waves and making it known just how important diverse and inclusive teams are across not only STEM, but as a whole, when we work together and we are working as a team, the difference and impact that we can have across the globe and the world. And with that, Susan McGinty, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Emily. So excited to chat with you today.
And
Thanks so much for having me.
yeah, and thank you for starting our day, your day off with us.
Yeah, I can't think of a better way to start the day.
Awesome. Well, how would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Susan. I have my own business that I've been building and running for the past 7 years or so, focused on leadership development in the security and STEM sectors. And I'm very specific about working there because that's where my career has been. So 25 years in the STEM and security industries. I started as a research chemist in drug design and worked in that space for about 10 years. And then I moved into defense. So government role, took my scientific and technical skills into defense, and worked in defense and national security for another 15 years or so. But I'm also a mum, a wife. I live in Canberra, Australia. We're very lucky to live right next to the beautiful Guru Nature Reserve. And we start our day there every day. So blessed by that. And it's spring here, so we've had lots of our native trees flowering. All the roses are out. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I've got a couple of kids, beautiful kids who are now adults, and I have to say, being a parent of young adults is just incredible.
It's
All the fun without any responsibility. I just fill the fridge, and they're fine. They come and go. They've both got jobs. They're happy. They hang out with us, but I don't have to do that running around or responsible um, mum anymore. I mean, of course, I worry about them, but I try not to let them know that.
Oh, I love that, and I can appreciate that. I've got producer Ken and a 20-year-old daughter, so I can feel that age too, right? Like it's a different
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah, absolutely. It's a bit liberating as a parent because you suddenly get a bit of your own agency and autonomy back.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You need to go do fun things that you didn't have for a while because you were busy going between sports events or music events or all of the things.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we want to go away for the weekend, we just go and the kids look after the dog, and that's fantastic.
I love that. Hint, hint, producer
Yeah.
Ken, I've got 2 dogs.
Hint, hint.
Well, thank you so much. You're entering spring. We're getting ready for our snow to start falling. So I
Yeah,
always love that. So amazing. Well, thanks again for being here. I can't wait to dig into your background in STEM, near and dear to my heart, kind of where I've spent my career as well. So it's amazing. And thank you for being here. And let's do a little icebreaker. What's a
absolutely.
what's a song on your playlist?
Oh, so a song on my playlist. So I actually like to, this morning even, I worked out to Van Halen. I like to work out to Van
Yes.
Halen. And I like all Van Halen songs, but one of my favorites is Jump. So absolutely, that's when you're feeling like, oh, you got to motivate yourself. That's a great song to get motivated with in the mornings before you work out.
Actually, that's a good idea to put on my running playlist. I love
Yeah,
that. Oh, that's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Producer Ken, what do you I probably am not gonna know, but who's the band? What do you got
Oh,
going?
I've been jamming out to break stuff, Limp Bizkit lately. A lot more.
Oh,
Well, at
okay.
least I know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Always one
I
of my favorites, but it's come back around.
Um, I don't know most of the bands that my daughter tells me about because she listens to quite different music. But my son, who's 19, he's into all the 80s and 90s classics. So he's
Hey.
always listening to music that I know from my childhood. It's fantastic.
Yes, like Bon Jovi? Is he a Bon Jovi fan?
Um, So he does have Bon Jovi in there. He'll have Bryan Adams. He'll have, oh my gosh, just everything.
I
Guns
love
N' Roses. Yeah.
love it. That's great. I've got
Yeah.
one right now that I'm listening to, a bar song by Shaboozey. Like, I love this song. It's a good one. It's a kickoff of my running playlist.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, you really need something to get you over, to get you started, don't you?
You do, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that. We love to get to know our guests on a little bit of a personal level, so we appreciate you doing that with us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so I want you to share about your organization, the Asstembly. And first of all, love the name. Perfect. It's such a great name. So share a
Thank
little bit
you.
about your organization.
Yeah, thank you. So we actually have rebranded only back in August. And so the Assembly is very, very new in name, but we've been doing the work for over the last 7 years. And the reason we rebranded, we previously spent previously we were called AL Leadership, and we really started out focused on female leadership development in the security and STEM sectors because that was a gap that I experienced when I worked in those sectors. And it was a gap that a lot of my staff and colleagues were telling me existed for them as well. So I really wanted to fill that gap. And so have been working in that space for 7 years. Leadership development tailored specifically for women in the security and STEM sectors, based on research, based on what women need in those sectors, what the environment's like, what some of the barriers are. And also a very important part is the lived experience element. And what I love about the way we approach that leadership development for women in those sectors is that it gives them the not just the permission, but the skills and confidence to be able to become authentic leaders. So leaders who are authentic to themselves. Because in those sectors, as you would know, Emily, there's these very masculine role models of leadership. And when you as a woman try to mimic those or fit in with those, it can be really difficult because it doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
And a lot of the women I work with at the sort of emerging leader level, they've absolutely shied away from and avoided stepping into leadership roles, even when they've been invited to or given the opportunity to, because they don't feel that they can fit that mold.
Mhm.
So we really teach them how to be confident, and how to be authentic to them, which is a different outcome for each of them. And that's just amazing, incredible. And the impact we're seeing in the industry is just amazing. We're seeing more women stepping into leadership roles, particularly here in Australia, where we do a lot of our work, but also in the global companies we work with. We're seeing more women step into leadership roles very confidently and having great leadership impact for their teams and for their organisations. So that's where we started. We also, over the past few years, have been sort of expanded to focus on gender inclusive leadership because we were being asked to share our leadership training with men as well.
Yep.
So we developed some specific leadership excellence programs that we share with both men and women. And the need for that got much greater, and we had some of our clients really asking us to help them build inclusion and strengthen inclusion in their organizations. We're doing much more of that work. And 7 years ago when I started, I really was focused on diverse leadership. Let's get more women into leadership roles. And I realized that whilst the work we were doing was impactful, the sector and the organisations weren't really coming along and empowering those women as much as they could because the culture of inclusion wasn't there. So we decided to expand our focus on not just diverse leadership, but inclusive leadership, because diversity can't survive without inclusion. And so the rebranding kind of happened quite organically. We sort of were doing the work and the brand caught up. And through our market research, we identified that no one's actually focused on inclusive leadership that we could find in the security and STEM sectors. So we're very excited to be able to really help organisations focus on inclusion in a variety of different ways. And what our mission is, Emily, is really to embed inclusive leadership at the core of an organisation's innovation or knowledge generation cycle. So we really want to help them embed it at the core of their business so that it touches every element their business, of their workforce, of their innovation outcomes, of their decision making.
Mhm.
And that's becoming very powerful for organizations who are implementing, some of our frameworks and some of our approaches. So it's very exciting, and we're really excited about what's to come. We're really excited about the new brand, because it's sort of really different in the market.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that, and I have to say, as a younger female leader, I know I would try to. So I'm very much appreciating the fact that I wish I would have had something like this, because
Mm.
you get into a room and you're the only woman or one of very few. Sometimes still that's the case for me, and when you try to have your voice heard, you almost have to try to mirror what the male counterparts are doing, and then you're just there's a negative context for when a woman puts her shield up to mirror what's being shown from your male counterparts, and that's not right, and it feels so bad. Like, you go home at the end of the night and you feel so bad because it's going against the grain of who you are, because you're not being true to yourself, and so I love the fact that you're addressing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And what I love is that all the lessons I learned about how not to do that, and all the research that I've read, and how we integrate neuroscience in how we show up and, put our influence into practice.
Yep.
I'm teaching that to younger women now who can just have that. They don't have to kind of go through that same
Yep.
kind of 20, 25 years of feeling like they don't quite fit. They have to put up a shield. They have to kind of match and mirror the way men lead.
Yep.
And that's really exciting to me. I get a huge lot of joy out of being able to help women do that.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing, and thank you for doing it. I mean, I'm not sure if you're not in the thick of it every day, like I still am in the thick of it every day, and just the feeling of being in that position of being that female leader, and just the way that other counterparts look at you. So the other thing that you mentioned was bringing in the male counterparts into the training, and I think
Mm,
that's also important. And I don't think, also, unless you're in, again, when you're in the thick of it, and it's not just tech, other spaces feel this way, but when you're in those moments where you have a male counterpart who's speaking with you at such a level of a tone, or in a way that it shouldn't be appropriate, but they don't really understand why it's not appropriate, or how it really affects their female counterparts. So I love the fact that you're incorporating that into the frameworks as well.
yeah. And, the foundation that we work from is that inclusion is extremely complex and it's very difficult. It sounds like a simple concept, and I guess conceptually it's simple, but it's really complex. If it wasn't, we would have achieved it already. And I
Yeah.
think it's particularly complex in the STEM and security sectors because they are so male dominated. They're very focused on, the technicalities, and the outcomes. And so we really wanted to make inclusion more simple for organizations. So we know that every organization will have a different purpose for inclusion. They'll have a different set of strategic priorities that they want inclusion to enable, and they'll have a different approach to putting inclusion into practice. And that really depends on who the leaders are and who's in the organization. And so we really look at inclusion and inclusive leadership through a systems framework, which our clients love because, systems thinkers, they
Yep.
love to be able to break problems down into components.
Yeah.
And so that's the sort of approach that we take. Making the complex simple really is what we try to do. And so we've got some amazing approaches around inclusive leadership, inclusive culture diagnostics, inclusive culture action plans, but also we keep our focus on women's leadership, of course, and our leadership excellence training as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I love that you break it down into what sounds like almost tangible, bite-sized ways to approach change. Because a lot of this too, it's a change to the culture that's being
Yeah.
driven when
Yeah.
when you start doing this. So change is hard. Change is often met with some resistance. So a lot of times if you can just break it down into tangible
Yeah.
pieces, it's a little bit more easily digestible.
Yeah. And I think one of the most important things to not just acknowledge, but incorporate when you're trying to build an inclusive culture or think about how to create inclusive leaders is really starting with where people are at, because we all come to the workplace with our own mental models based on our life experiences, our work experiences, our culture, our gender, our education, and so we can't ignore those.
Yep.
And so we really have to kind of step back and start with, okay, how are they influencing the culture we're building, and how do we take that into account, and where do we need to, as you said, make those
Yep.
adjustments?
Yep. Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. I love that.
yeah,
And let's talk a little bit about the importance of this. And when you then bring this into building diverse teams for organizations. So, a lot of times we look at it and there's profit impacts and
yeah.
culture impacts. Excuse me. I get choked up talking about it. Um, so just talk to me a little bit about why that's important for organizations.
Yeah, so we absolutely know that there's financial benefits for organisations that are diverse and that have inclusive cultures. We know that diverse companies are 39% more likely to outperform financially. We know that inclusive companies are twice as likely to exceed their financial targets, and 8 times as likely to achieve better business outcomes. And we know that they generate more cash flow and more revenue per employee. There's also, of course, impacts on innovation benefits. And if you think about how diversity brings different ideas, of course, we're going to get innovation outcomes that are going to be improved. So we know that inclusive companies are 6 times as likely to be innovative and agile. And inclusive companies also have up to 20% higher innovation rates and 19% higher innovation revenue. So there really are significant, data-based outcomes. We also know that there's talent pool benefits. So people want to work in inclusive companies. In fact, 80% of workers in a 2023 study indicated that they want to work for a company that values DEI. It's important to people.
Yep.
And particularly, we know that inclusive cultures have a 22% lower turnover rate. So it's good for retention as well.
Yep. And especially within, excuse me, especially within the tech sector, innovation right now is so important to stay ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's changing AI and it's changing so quickly. So that innovation and culture perspective and retention, I mean, that's just critical for growth.
Absolutely. And I think it's critical when we're innovating, whether it's in health or health sciences or engineering, civil engineering, or whether it's in tech or ethical AI, how to make AI ethical, or cybersecurity.
Yep.
We have to have the diverse perspectives that represent our populations, or we're going to be designing, developing, and innovating things that really aren't fit for purpose or that have exclusion inadvertently embedded in them. And that's something that I'm quite passionate about. How do we ensure that we're getting the right input at the innovation point to ensure that the products and services we're delivering across the sectors really meet the needs of society in a very inclusive way. Otherwise, we're just perpetuating exclusion.
100%. And you touched on healthcare there, and that's near and dear to my heart.
Mm.
The downstream impacts to patient care. I
Yeah,
mean, when you are starting at an equitable place of creation of AI, of a product, that has just huge impacts ultimately on patient care. So that one resonates deeply with me because of my sector. But if we don't start with an equitable, diverse um, team members and an organization, you're never going to feel that benefit.
absolutely. And I've worked with some global leaders in the healthcare industry, and they really did prioritize diversity, not just gender diversity, but they had
Yep.
such a fabulous cultural diversity in their organization. And that absolutely flowed through to the innovation they were doing was incredible, like really technical. And that's what helped them become market leaders. Not just the fact that, they had great tech people, but they were really incorporating diversity at the innovation level, all the way through to development,
Yep.
delivery as well.
Yep. And think about that just even from the recruiting perspective and
Yeah.
getting new recruits into an organization, which again goes to that growth perspective. The, I can't stress enough the work that you're doing is so critical because that's just it changes the world. It changes the way that we're running organizations. It's changing innovation. It's changing everything. So I love that you're building these framework again that are tangible for us to see such a difference in the way that we're bringing these things forward. So amazing. I am so passionate about the way again that these diverse teams just lead to growth, which again in the healthcare sector means that you're going to make a difference to somebody who could be fighting for their life, right? Like it's truly
Absolutely.
100% that
Yeah.
impactful. So
And I think, an important truth about diversity that we have to really keep in mind, and not ignore, is that diverse teams feel less comfortable. So the Neuro Leadership Institute's done some research that shows that actually diverse teams feel less comfortable, because they're not the same. They're different, and those differences are apparent.
yep.
But when they learn how to work with that discomfort and how to have really healthy conflict and create psychological safety, even though they feel uncomfortable, they come out with better outcomes.
Yep.
So we have to remember diversity is not easy. Okay, this is not an easy
No.
this is not an easy topic we're dealing with, but it's absolutely worth moving through the discomfort of building inclusive cultures, of having diverse teams, because the outcomes are really worth it.
And the word discomfort there are so many uncomfortable and moments of discomfort that I personally have felt, like even as as even last week. But you have to be able to have the ability, and I'm sure that's part of your framework of how to speak up for yourself and how to make sure
Absolutely.
that
Yes.
everybody understands
Yeah.
like how to
Yeah.
receive that. Yeah.
Yeah, what's one of the with female leaders particularly, it's one of the most important things that we focus on, and really about how to more broadly gain influence,
Yep.
have influence not just on your team but on decision makers, on external and internal stakeholders, and how to make sure that you're leveraging your own points of difference. So
Yep.
you're not trying to leverage someone else's point of difference. You're not trying to be the same as the person next to
Yep.
you. You're bringing your points of difference and leveraging that appropriately, in a way that enables you to be really confident. So people do listen. So you do have the impact that you want to have. And we have great results with the different approaches that we teach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, again, I go back to I love the fact that you're including the male population into these programs because a lot of times, the my experience is sometimes it's a different experience when you have to have those uncomfortable situations, in conversation. So I love that you've included that and can help. I probably I'm making a little assumption here, but it sounds like how to receive that and how to respond to some of these uncomfortable conversations that are having to be had.
Yeah, we do talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
So what was really evident to me working in the security and STEM sectors was that leadership development wasn't prioritized, um, and a focus that we sort of have at the Asstembly is this really strong belief that technical excellence and leadership proficiency are different disciplines.
I love it.
And we all learn the technical excellence. Everyone in those organizations are there because they have the technical excellence. They're brilliant. They know the technical inside out, whether that's science, engineering, maths, cybersecurity, whatever
Yep.
it is. But leadership proficiency is a different discipline, and it similarly has to be taught. We don't just know how to be leaders. I certainly didn't. I remember my first leadership role, I had no idea what I was doing. Because I didn't know what I was doing and I made mistakes, but I wanted to be a good leader. I became really fascinated with leadership. And that's really, what drove me into the work I do now. I just became so fascinated by leadership, and then coupling that with wanting to uplift women as well. But what I really, really strongly believe is that the leadership proficiency and the leadership skills that are a separate discipline are just as important as the technical skills. And so, gender regardless, we want to bring that leadership proficiency to organizations. And along with that, we want to help them be inclusive leaders.
Yep. I love that. And I always say you can teach the tech, but it's not as easy to teach the human component to lead the tech to get implemented.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And because we kind of might tend to ignore that human element, it's not usually taught at the sort of, early career stages. And so we really try to, get in and teach at all levels, all career levels. Yeah.
That's great. How do you see the trajectory changing over the next few years? Knowing the challenges that we're facing right now, you're doing great work. How do we see the trajectory of this changing in the next few years?
Yeah, I think we're in a complex time, in a whole range of ways, not least economically. And something that I have to remind myself all the time is that organizations are really focused on the urgent, not so much the important that's not urgent.
Yep.
And so the work we do, I believe, is very important to them, but it's not urgent. It's not the most urgent thing that they have to deal with.
Yep.
And so I think that at the moment there's a lot of focus on urgent, and I think there's still a lot of work to be done to help organizations realize that leadership, and particularly inclusion, is really important to the outcomes for their organization. To being able to retain staff, get the staff they need, have access to the skill sets they need to move forward. So I think, the next couple of years are still going to be challenging. I think we're going to certainly not be in a hiatus. We're certainly, I think, continuing to not gain too much momentum, but I think the next few years are going to be challenging. But I do think that there's going to be an upward trajectory coming. Particularly, we go through such cycles of economics as well, don't we? And so that always determines, well, how much money do I have to invest in things that aren't urgent? But I do really hope that I can help organizations see the value of investing in their leaders, because once they've got good leaders, a lot of those problems that become urgent will be dealt with before they become urgent.
I was just, as you were talking, I was just thinking about that. It's not urgent until an issue arises and you do not have a leader who can help guide out of the situation. I think about when there's a culture issue. So when an employee is hired, it's not a good fit. I know I've worked for bad bosses before, really poor leaders. That becomes, just it wipes out the workforce. That you do not have a motivated workforce, and then you're truly facing an urgent issue because you have a culture that isn't performing in the way that you need them to from an organizational and financial perspective. So, I completely agree with you. A lot of people don't think of this as urgent. I would love to challenge and say, make this urgent to help stave off the time where it becomes an escalation and you are feeling it from a financial or a cultural perspective that you can't get yourself out of.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'd love to help them consider it as urgent too. You just got me thinking. One of the benefits of diverse teams is the impact on decision making, because women and men's brains think differently. So when we bring those different ways of thinking together, we actually get better decision outcomes. And there's research that shows that. And so just through having diverse teams, and having, inclusive cultures where everyone's voice is able to be shared,
Yep.
and different perspectives are considered and emotional intelligence is brought into the decision making, we just end up with better decisions, which means often those urgent situations don't occur because we've preempted them. We've absolutely avoided them because we've made good decisions.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. I do not think people understand the value of being in a situation, in tech where you have to make a decision about something going one way or another, and you have
Mm.
a different viewpoint from 7 different people. And as a leader, you can soak that in, evaluate the risk by what everybody's saying, and come up with a solid decision that helps you move faster. You may take a little pause while you get to that decision, but wow, that the downstream impact of having a solid decision right out of that one point is just so beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen organizational boards who all think similarly.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always end up in the best decision.
Yep.
It might sometimes be a decision that has too much risk associated, or it's not forward leaning enough because they're all risk averse, or it fits the pattern of it reflects the pattern of what they've done previously, so that they're not actually creating enough newness. They're not actually innovating enough or
Yep.
moving forward enough. And that's, it's challenging to watch because it doesn't have to be that way.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. Oh boy, I could give you examples of so much that we've seen. That's like a part 2. We could share stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one thing that I think also, as an entrepreneur and being a founder of the Asstembly, you know, I'm sure you've seen some challenges that yourself you've had to overcome. And I think more now than ever, people are also saying, do I start out on my own, or what should I do if you had a career change? So, what are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in founding your organization?
So many challenges. So I'm trained as a scientist, and a technical leader, and so I don't know how to run a business. I certainly didn't when I started. So I had to learn how to run a business, and a big part of that is we have to sell. And so I'm not a natural salesperson. I really like to collaborate with people, and in my previous roles, I did a lot of collaboration. If I wanted to, I had a great idea for a new capability. I really liked creating new things. So new capability, or there's a capability here that could be improved. That was what I would love to work on, and I could bring everyone together and get that done. But of course, that's because you know that was in a corporate space, where a government space where everyone was invested.
Yep.
I didn't have to kind of, there was no exchange of money. I didn't have to sell, the idea, so to speak. And then coming out and thinking, right, I've got to actually sell things to keep my business going. Okay, this is interesting. So
Yeah.
learning that sales process has been, a slower one for me, a difficult one for me, in that I've just had to, I'm not a natural salesperson. I can absolutely talk to people about what I do and how I can help them. But learning how to then get really clear on how to take them through a sales process is something I had to learn. Um, and, I'm a team person. I love working with teams. And so I have some consultants work with me, but I don't have a whole full-time team. And
Yep.
so working by myself, and having to, not having other people to go to on the
Yep.
spot to say, right, what do we do here? What do you advise here? Tell me what you think about this. Every decision sat with me,
Yep.
and I had to get comfortable with that, and I mean I had to, so I did very quickly. I'm very lucky that I've got quite a good network of mentors that I can reach out to when I need diverse perspectives.
Mhm.
And I always seek diverse perspectives because I guess, having a small business where you're the founder and CEO, the last thing you want to do is live in an echo chamber.
Yep.
Um, it's not good for my clients. It's not good for me. So I really had to learn how to tap into that. I had to build my network from scratch, which was a bit of a challenge because I didn't have a good network when I started, so I had to build a network from scratch, and I had to learn how to enjoy networking, and I do now.
Yeah.
And I teach other women how to enjoy network and do it really authentically. But that's something that I really had to learn. And I guess the particular challenge when you are a small business like us is, where do I put my attention to help not just expand the business, but make sure we're secure, we're future proofed?
Yep.
How do we incorporate technology? And so that's something that I'm working on at the moment. How do I make sure that I'm utilizing AI in the appropriate ways that are going to help us? How do I make sure I'm choosing the right tech platforms that are what I need, but not too, I'm not going too far. I'm not investing in things I don't need. How do I make sure I'm providing a delivery, using tech to provide a really great delivery experience, learning experience for our clients? And I think even though there's a lot about how AI can teach things and do everything, I think that most of my clients really want to have an in-person learning experience. And one of the most important things in the way we teach is social learning with other leaders, because there's so much value in that. That's a really big component of their learning. And so finding that balance, is something that I'm continually experimenting with. And sometimes getting feedback can be a real challenge. Like, how do I know I'm on the right track? I'm really, because we're small, we can experiment and adapt very, very quickly, which is a huge benefit compared to large organizations or even medium-sized organizations. So we can experiment quickly, we can turn things on and off, we can adapt quickly based on feedback. But getting really great feedback that helps us to ensure that we are being specific enough whilst flexible enough is sometimes challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, every single thing that you said, I can feel that and appreciate and empathize. It's so different, being on your own, and, the sales cycle thing, I was always involved with sales from a consulting perspective, but it's different trying to do it on your own. It's different
Yeah.
trying to be that hunter out there figuring out. So, congratulations on the success that you're having getting through those challenges, though. I know how much truly time and sweat and tears go into making sure you're going in the right direction.
Yeah. Look, we don't have tears because everything's a learning opportunity. Something I've really, really learnt to strengthen running my own business is my resilience.
I love it.
And so, my resilience in the past 7 years has just exponentially increased. So we don't do tears here, but we do say, okay, what happened here? What's the
Yep.
lesson? Let's quickly incorporate it and move on. So again, because we're small, we can incorporate our learnings very quickly. And I view everything as just a learning, right? There's no failure. There's no mistakes. Often I will find I didn't pay enough attention and therefore didn't, make the right decision in the moment.
Yep.
But that's a reminder to me, right? So yeah, we really take a growth perspective in how we do things.
I love that. Yeah, I think it was last week on a call, everyone was like, "Oh, sorry, this," and, like, "Oh, I'm sorry with that." I was like, "We're not gonna use the words 'I'm sorry' anymore on this call. We are going to hear what's happened and respond and, course correct if need be." So I love that you keep it positive. I mean, we truly do usually learn something when something's gone sideways.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a whole list of lessons. Yeah.
What's been something positive that's kind of come about unexpectedly as being an entrepreneur and out on your own?
Um, so my resilience growth, absolutely. And as part of that, something I didn't expect, um, I because you always hear, entrepreneurs and small business owners, they're burnt out, they work so hard, they're on this treadmill,
Yep.
but that's not been my experience. So I actually have been very, intentional about how I set boundaries around how I work, when I work, how much I work, but to balance that, how much I invest in my physical, mental resilience.
Mhm.
Um, so that's actually been something that surprised me. I just feel so authentic in a way in how I show up in life now, compared to even, how I did 2, 3 years ago. Because I was running my business part time for about 4 years, and I've been full time in it for about 3 years. So trying to do a full time corporate job whilst running a part time business, that was a lot of fun, and it was all sweat and all go go go.
Yeah.
But being able to be a bit more strategic, and only focus on focus on the business, has really allowed me to think more about who I am, who do I want to be in this part of my life, and who do I need to be the best person to serve my clients. And so what I didn't expect was that actually it really opened up this opportunity for me to learn more about myself, and how I got to be where I was, and leave some things behind me that maybe weren't serving me, and just be really grounded and centered and extremely happy, um, in a way that probably wasn't the case when I was working in corporate.
Yeah. Uh, and I think part of it too is that because you're doing it for yourself, like you have control over making the decisions and it's pouring it back into yourself. It does feel so different, and it's a different type of joy when you wake up in the morning. Like it's the the other thing I just wanted to emphasize that you said there was the word boundaries.
Mm,
And I love that because I think so many, whether you're on your own or whether you're working for another company, if you don't put some boundaries in place, then it can become so overwhelming on the day to day. So I love that that's been something that you've taken as a positive.
yeah, so Emily, it was something I had to learn how to do,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I would say yes to everyone and everything,
yeah,
and it was a lot. And so I had to teach myself how to put boundaries in place, but I took the opportunity to really reset, when I moved full time into the business, to really reset. Okay, what are the boundaries that I want to start living by now? And they're around my time, they're around my values and how I put my values into place, and where I won't allow values conflict to come into my
yeah,
life. They're around the people the activities I do, and the people that I spend time with. Yeah, so that's actually been a real learning for me, but it's been incredibly, um, empowering.
yeah. No, I love that. It's a great lesson. it is tough to start to incorporate that, and it does take time, but to learn how to put those in place. But I think it's just so important. So I just wanted to emphasize that word because I heard you say it, and I was
Yeah.
like, yes, yes, boundaries.
And most of the female leaders I work with, and we work with leaders at all levels, so emerging leader, early professional, um, technical leaders that are transitioning to sorry, technical experts that are transitioning to their first leadership role, and then established leaders, and up into C-suite as well. But almost all the women that I've worked with, um, hundreds and hundreds over the past couple of years, they all talk about boundaries being something they want to improve.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing. Well, what is one thing that you, as we start to wrap up, that you want to make sure our audience knows about the work that you're doing?
Oh, thank you. What do I want people to really know about the work I'm doing? Look, when we think about female leadership development specifically, it is such a strategic lever to diversity and inclusion and better innovation outcomes. It's a strategic lever to skills access, to retention, and to helping organizations become market leaders. So I think that's something really important. I'm not sure that people are thinking about simply developing a female leader would have such a significant impact.
Yep.
Some of the case studies that we've done on some of the programs that we've run, they really show, the impact isn't just that we develop one person, it has impacts on the teams and then the organization more broadly. And we're seeing that tangibly. It's incredible to look at the feedback and see the impact that it's having on broader teams, and from their managers' perspective as well. So keep in mind, it's a valuable investment, and it doesn't have to be through a paid leadership program. How do you give them, the women around you, opportunities to stretch their knowledge, stretch their capabilities, stretch the way they think, and start to take on some leadership responsibilities and experiences? And the other thing I think is this idea about urgent versus important. I think the work we're doing is very important, but it's not urgent. So how to, think about what you might be able to achieve in your organization or your team if you were taking a more inclusive approach, if you had, more effective leadership, and you're bringing that leadership proficiency to the technical knowledge. Yeah. The other thing, I guess, is, we've been working across the world for the last 4 years now, and so the last 2 years we've actually worked with leaders in every continent except Antarctica. So 6 continents, which is fantastic. And we've won multiple awards for the work that we do. So we know it creates impact. And so I think that sort of, hopefully resonates to people that this is valuable work to invest in. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. We're going to get you Antarctica. We
I haven't yet set that as a goal. I'm happy with 6 for now. 6
Okay.
continents is incredible.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Congratulations. What an amazing thing to be able to say.
Yeah, I feel pretty excited by that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything that the Powered by Authenticity team can do to help?
Um I guess just, if you're able to share the links to our website,
100%.
and people can look at and access our leadership programs there, that would be great. But otherwise, please just keep talking about the value of inclusion, and inclusive leadership, but also, this real value in enabling people to become their own authentic selves as leaders, whether male or female.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to share all of the links. The other thing I want to make sure that we're sharing is the fact that you have a virtual launch tomorrow.
We do, yes,
Okay.
tomorrow, yes. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, because we've moved into our daylight savings summertime now. So it's 12 noon, sort of Sydney time, runs for an hour, and I can give you the link for that too, if you like, if anyone's interested in joining, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? Do me a favor, share it to me in an email, and what I'll do is we'll go out. This is live streaming. We'll reshare the live and make sure that we include that link for within that as well. And I will try to be there if I can. If not, is it being recorded? Are you doing any type of recording to go back and rewatch, or is it just kind of?
So we can potentially record it. Yeah, we can absolutely record it and share the recording if anyone would like to access that. Of course, yeah.
Congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
I'm so
Yeah.
happy for you. The work is just so important. And again, being in the thick of it within STEM, this just such a conversation that resonates so close and dear to my heart.
Yeah. I'm so glad. Thank you. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity to chat. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, no, I could talk to you all day. I
I
really
know.
could. Sorry about the coughing. Not sure. I got like a tickle in my throat, and all of a sudden I was like,
No, that's okay. And we probably off air have a lot of stories to share.
"Oh, I think we could just have like a full episode of sharing stories." I'm sure that we've both been in situations that we've had to try to maneuver through. And it's funny you mentioned, as part of being out on your own. when those situations come up, it used to be I would have an escalation path, and now I am the escalation path. And so having to sit back and, to your point, reevaluate, am I willing to accept this as a boundary of who I am and the business that I want to be known for?
Yeah.
Right. Or is it time to make a tough decision? And boy, those are some exhausting days. Those are tough things to manage through. So, it's I'm sure we could talk all day about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and thanks to your audience for being so interested in
Ah,
what I have to share. And I can just see Peter Giganak come up on the
yeah,
screen there. Peter,
yay.
I didn't know you were listening. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, we've got a couple of people who popped in, so thank
Yeah,
and I just wanna
he's
say,
a
is he good?
Peter's a friend of mine. He's amazing. He's like he's won Mentor of the Year awards
Um,
for mentoring women in security in Australia for the past 3 years. He's
oh.
incredible. Yeah, he's a cybersecurity leader, and he's a darn nice guy as well.
Oh, well, thanks for stopping by, Peter. We appreciate Susan, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I can't thank you enough for the conversation, for the work that you're doing. I really appreciate it. And I know you're just starting your day off, so I appreciate you starting with us here at Powered by Authenticity.
Absolutely. I can't think of a better way to start. Thanks, Emily. And I look forward to catching up with you soon again, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Producer Ken, thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
Thanks for being hot on that mute button for me. I appreciate it. And we record at a community arts center, Susan. So here in my hometown. So we want to say thank you through the use of a grant. They allow us to come in and use their podcast room. So thanks to Go Art. And hey, thanks to all of our subscribers and our listeners. Thank you for continuing to support the podcast. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. And Susan, thank you for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Emily. You have a lovely evening.
Thanks.